Welcome back to Nick Lenz's novel reviews. This is episode number 60. Yeah, it's been about a week since I did another one of these. And like I've said since the series started, this is a series that I don't do very often because novels take me a little while longer to read than graphic novels do. So yeah, last episode I did a Star Wars book. This one's gonna be a Star Trek book, and it's Star Trek Voyager Architect's Infinity by Christian Bayer. Yeah. This book takes place in the month of August 2382. Yes. And still with the Voyager books, they're about 3 years. They're like 3 years behind on Star Trek Titan, on Titan Next Generation Deep Space Nine. As for Actually, it's 4 years. Yeah, they're 4 years behind. As for why this is, it's because Voyager proceeds at snail's pace when it comes to progression of the timeline. Yeah, it'll be a while before they catch up to what goes on in the other books. Like, they have one book where the character Nambako, despite being killed off in a book called Star Trek The Fall, she actually appeared in this series. Like, some people are like, okay, why is she alive here and then she's dead in another book? Simple explanation, takes place 4 years before her death. Simple as that. Now, this book, unlike other books for the Star Trek Voyager series, this one is kind of like a Planet of the Week type of story. Yeah, it's just the full circle fleet coming to a system. And of course, they do reference stuff that happened in other books, where they come across a system and they're investigating it, and they also discovered there's a planet which is kind of like a Class L or whatever type planet it is. And apparently it's got biodomes that basically inhibit a Class M type atmosphere. So it becomes a short-lived planet. Yeah, and there's also talk of doing how should I put this? A Delta Quadrant version of Risa. Yeah, Risa. A planet that's frequently mentioned in the Star Trek series, in the live-action series, and yet any episode set there is considered to be one of the worst episodes in the entire series. Like, they did at least one for Next Generation, they did one for Deep Space Nine, heck, they even did one for Enterprise. Voyager never had an episode where they set on Risa of all places. Yeah. And we have also scenes of the Paris family going camping on this planet. A scene of Chakotay and Janeway going skinny dipping. Yeah, it's kind of like saying, oh yeah, this is most of the story. It's like the Voyager crew on their day off. That is essentially what this kind of the story is. And so Mysteries, which kind of the whole thing of the mystery of this whole planet, that kind of is the most interesting thing about it. This side stuff is really just okay, not terrible. And here's kind of the thing. Now of all the Star Trek Voyager characters who appear throughout the entire series, I would say of the regular characters, all but two are actually in this book. And those two are Neelix and Tuvok. Neelix has not appeared in the past several books. He did appear at the start of this relaunch of the Voyager series, set after the events of Star Trek Destiny. Yeah. The 3-book miniseries where the Borg went on a complete rampage about the Alpha Quadrant, basically devastating habited and inhabited planets, moons, even, like, they just went on a complete rampage. Yeah, just using their assimilation beam, just slicing through planets like there's no tomorrow. And there's stuff related to the Celestial. There's reference to them in this book where, because Seven was a Borg, she's no longer a Borg now. Yeah, all Borg implants were replaced with celestial protons, was keep her alive, because before, for years, her Borg implants would only keep her alive. Now it's these protons, which, excuse me, they did have a few books back where they did try to experiment with these things. And apparently her first love came back after not being seen since Unimatrix Zero. Yeah, he just comes back and he and 7 and 9, because of the stuff he did, 7 and 9 wants nothing to do with the guy at all. And those of you curious, does any of the Voyager characters contribute to the plot at all? In actuality, no. Harry Kim does some stuff. Not a lot. I mean, the best thing that happens to him is the fact that he becomes a parent. Yeah, Harry Kim becomes a parent, which makes him the first one since Tom Paris became a parent. Because, well, Tuvok kind of doesn't count because he was a parent pre-series. So after series, I would say that Harry Kim is the second male cast member, well, male character of the series to become a parent because none of the other ones ever did. Nope, never did. And there's at one point when Harry Kim is acting captain of Voyager because Chakotay and Tom Paris on the planet. Technically, the way that Harry Kim's line of command rolls in, he's technically the third in command of Voyager because originally he was the ops officer. He was the if you watch the show, his station was off to where you see Chakotay. You're looking at him to Chakotay's right is Janeway. To Chakotay's far left, it's Harry Kim. After the series, because Tuvok went to Titan, he got moved to being the chief tactical officer and the chief of security. Yeah, he got promoted. He got a big promotion. Not only got a new job, he got promoted from being ensign for 7 years, and now he's a full-blown lieutenant. And he was briefly in command of Voyager. Yeah. Mostly put, they do wrap up some loose ends from the last book, but mostly put, in the case of the plot when it comes to Voyager, the whole thing with Full Circle, yeah, the whole exploration thing is just explore one planet. Heck, half the fleet doesn't show up in the book at all. I mean, the only ships actually get a general, you get a chance to see them, actually people do something on it is, the Glenn and the Vesta. That's it. There are 2 ships in the fleet. Yeah, and here's the thing about these ships. These ships are slightly bigger than Voyager. I'm not kidding, and Voyager's the flagship of this entire fleet. And Voyager's chief engineer is not B'Elanna. Nope. After Starship Destiny, they kind of, had it where B'Elanna and Meryl, Tom Paris' daughter, where they kind of faked their deaths because they did that just to get away from a cult. Yeah, but in the case of what they do with her afterwards, B'Elanna is made fleet engineer, the chief fleet engineer, though because Voyager's chief engineer, Nancy Cohen, who is also Harry Kim's girlfriend, who's who's also an alien, decides, because of stuff happened in another book called Children of the Storm, which kind of was a big turning point for this thing. Yeah, Children of the Storm actually get referenced in here, and there's another book that takes place right after that book. It takes place concurrently with it. This is roughly just a few months after that. It is. Now, the way this book ends, it ends on a cliffhanger when one of the Full Circle fleet ships gets destroyed. I should spoil this. It's not Voyager. Voyager is not destroyed. Voyager is perfectly fine. They do detect another one of their ships get destroyed. As to which one it is, I will not spoil that at all. Because it is a bit of a shocker to see that this new crew, now, some of the other crews, one of the crew, I think it's the Glenn, I think it is, that's commanded by a woman. Yeah. And she is nothing like Janeway at all. And apparently she and Janeway are old friends. So she's allowed to address her by her first name. Yeah. So you can kind of think of this book as the newer characters getting something to do and having the regular characters pretty much do almost nothing. Yeah, that's kind of the thing. I mean, B'Elanna and Tom are basically just there to be, just don't do much to advance the plot. I mean, the biggest contribution they do is being saved by one of the new characters. Yeah, a character who apparently is also partially telepathic. Oh yeah, I would say the biggest shocker of this whole book is recurring character Egypt, a character who appeared for the last, I would say the last couple of years of the show. Yeah, he was out of all the Borg children, they introduced Borg children about a year after Seven and I was introduced. All of them, Egypt was the tallest out of all of them. And in this particular series, Egypt became he went to Starfleet Academy. As soon as they came back to Earth, he enlisted at Starfleet Academy. And he graduated early because of events of another book, and he became B'Elanna's assistant. interesting thing for him to do because, well, he spent a lot of time with Voyager. And the writer outs him as gay. Not kidding about that. H-Chip is gay. No idea why. The writer thought it was a good idea. I should point out, though, he is probably by far it's top of my head, he's probably the second character I can think of in the history of Star Trek who they outed as gay. Yeah. Do you know what the first one was? Lieutenant Hawkins, a character who appeared in Star Trek First Contact. Played by, those who remember the character Damien Dark from Arrow. Yeah, that actor played him in that particular film. Yeah, he was a named character. He was actually pretty interesting. He was the helmsman of the Enterprise E. Until he got transformed into a Borg and got killed by Worf. Yeah, and it was later revealed that he had a boyfriend, and get this, his boyfriend actually transferred the Titan. Yeah, his boyfriend's one of the crew members of Titan. And Ichigo was probably by far the second character I can think of who's been outed as gay. I can't think of any other character. I mean, yes, in the Mirror Universe, they have several characters who are gay, like, off the top of my head, Ezri. Yeah, Ezri and I'm trying to remember her name. She's Rom's wife in the regular universe. Yeah, she and Ezri got married. Yep, they made her bisexual. Yeah, that's the thing about the universe. Like anybody who is normally you see straight in the regular universe, yeah, they made a full-blown gay or lesbian or bi. Because Deep Space Nine wanted to push the boundaries. I gotta say, the thing about Deep Space Nine, they actually did something right. Like having the first on-screen same-sex kiss in the history of television. Voyager never bothered to do that at all. Though, they do, in one book, there's a hint of a sexual, there's one book, I thought it was really bizarre, I think it was 7-9 book, there was a hint of sexual tension the way the writer wrote it. Sex between Janeway and 7 and 9. I have no idea why in the world that is. Yeah, and there was another. I heard something that apparently there's been slash fics for years of Kirk and Spock in a gay relationship because of the gay overtones that they apparently display between the two of them over the course of the entire franchise. Though, luckily enough, in the reboot series, there is none of that at all. And yet, between Shatner and Nimoy, when they depict when these two were usually together on screen, a lot of the time it's very gay overtone. Yeah, but the way Roddenberry had it, he never allowed these two to be outed as gay. Never. Because Kirk is a ladies' man, and Spock is just, well, emotionless. Yeah, though they do have him get married later on to Saavik. Yeah, he marries Saavik. Of course, he has a son with a woman he met in what was considered to be the final episode of the series, which was technically the second to last episode of it was the episode where it involved time travel. Yeah. Getting a bit off topic about this. The book starts off with stuff that happened in the last book, which is sort of a mild, it's actually a follow-up to the two-parter Future's End. An episode, two-part I actually liked from that particular series. It was interesting, and it was probably by far, get this, the only time Star Trek actually went. This was probably the first time that Star Trek had actually time traveled to present day, like around the time that the thing was coming out. First time since Star Trek IV, The Voyage Home. Yeah, this has only happened roughly about 3 times. Excuse me, over the course of the franchise, though you can kind of say in the case of Enterprise, it was kind of close to present day, though it was set like a year in the future when it came out, because it came out because they went to 2004 Detroit, and they actually, in the episode aired in 2003. The first couple times this happened was in the original series when they did time travel there, where they time traveled to present day, which was at the time, where they time traveled to the 60s, which technically was present day at that point because that's when the episodes aired. Next time we do this was with Voyage Home when they went into 1986 San Francisco, which is the year that the film took place. And then they did again in Voyager for a two-parter set in the 90s of all things, which probably just gave the it's probably overall one of the most affordable episodes they probably shot in the entire series. And no, actually, it wasn't Future End. It was Scratch. It wasn't your Future End. It was an episode featuring Alternate Timeline. It was a two-parter. I kind of forgot. It was not that one. It was actually a year of hell. Yeah, this two-part, which from what I've heard, the original plans for this two-parter, originally this was going to take up an entire season, but apparently, I think it was UPN who actually axed the idea and have it kept to a two-parter. Yeah. Oh, I should point out though, the leader of the aliens, who are actually the bad guys of this two-parter. Yeah, it's actually the one of the stars of that '70s show who actually play him. Yeah, he's referencing here. I'm trying. Yeah, the aliens known as the Chronom. I've seen what they look like. They're humans, but they're kind of like these little disfigurements on the side of their faces. Yeah, the thing with Voyager is they were terrible at making up new aliens because I would say the most interesting one they ever came up was the Herosian. But aside from those aliens, a lot of the aliens were very bland and were never convincing as aliens. Or let's have people be alien just because they wear different color clothes. Or in the case Next Generation, have an entire alien species populated by black people. Not kidding. Or I heard the original plot for that particular story was have the entire planet populated by Asians. Not kidding. They actually considered this in the 80s. Yeah. But yeah, it's the guy who plays the main character of that '70s show. It's the guy who plays his dad. Yeah, it was actually it's one of a couple things I've seen the guy in outside of that '70s show. I've also seen him in the original RoboCop film. Yeah, he was the guy who killed Alex Murphy in that film. And of course his two-parter, which I actually kind of enjoyed. Yeah, though over the course of that particular thing, Voyager systematically destroyed bit by bit. The first part ended with having most of the crew go via escape pods, and the two-parter ended well in that because they kind of reset the timeline by having Voyager crash into the ship, and then they had kind of like an epilogue of set about a couple hundred years in the past, where the villain of the two-parter is actually you see the blueprints of the actual ship he was building, and somehow the Voyager come across a torpedo left behind, a sort of a probe left over from that timeline, and they have a whole book dedicated to basically be a follow-up to it. The opening chapter of this whole thing is Janeway debriefing the Department of Temporal Investigations, which I'm not surprised that these guys showed up because it involved an alternate timeline and it's kind of based and also following time travel, so why not have these guys show up? Especially since the first time this particular agency showed up was in an episode of Deep Space Nine called Trials and Tribulations. Trials and Tribulations, which is sort of it was part of the 25th anniversary of Star Trek, where they had the Deep Space Nine crew meet the original series crew, which I thought that was awesome. Yeah, and it was that two-part introduced to Department of Temporal Investigations, which they've had their own spin-off book series, 2 printed books and 2 ebooks, which I have not read the ebooks yet. Yeah, and then the reference again at the end of the book, and not much else, but it's kind of nice the fact the book opened with that, which was nice. But once you finish reading, it's like, okay, it's basically Planet of the Week type of book. Yeah, that's what it is. You don't get much revelations aside from the fact that there's some mild character development. But aside from that, that's really it. Yeah. So I'm going to give this book roughly a 9 out of 10. Normally I would give this a 9.5 because the story's kind of interesting. But it's a Planet of the Week type of thing, and the story was just okay at best. It's probably the most kind of disappointing Voyager story I've read since, they did the whole relaunch of Voyager. Because the relaunch of Voyager like stuff after the series finale, has been good, really good, and I think a lot of people might agree, better than how these characters written in the actual TV show. Yeah, so 9 out of 10. All right, that's it for this episode. Stay tuned tomorrow for some comic corners, which I have about, as of right now, 4 ready to go. Well, we're ready to record anyways, but I expect to see these videos tomorrow, okay? But to see you there. Bye.